I just want to say you did a very good job. So good job. It's that thing where you're actually kind of smart. Things you say make you sound dumb.
Yeah, we both do that.
What's that called?
Nope.
Yeah, but you're a little different, Dad.
Stop saying sure! Oh, it drives me crazy!
Are you seeing clear? Are you seeing clear?
I think most people just ignore the tough question. This isn't Minecraft. This is real life.
You are hilarious.
That was not the dog, Dad. That was you.
Yeah, to solve this, we have to completely ignore the main problem.
That makes literally no sense to me. I just want to die.
And that, my friend, is one of my favorite things about you. Welcome to the Renaissance Agency. I am your host, Jeremy, and I'm here with two very lovely ladies today. My wife, Ashley Kester. Hi, Ashley.
Hello.
I'm a big fan. And my beautiful daughter, Claire.
Hi.
Hi. They're different ages. Ashley is around my age. Claire is about the same age as my oldest daughter. And is that fair?
I am your oldest daughter.
Okay. All right. The cheese is real. I opened the very first episode. Well, one of the episodes with Harley, maybe that's not aired yet, was thanks for quitting your job and listening to Renaissance Radio. So first minute or so is almost always nonsense. But I brought you guys on today. I'm so excited. You'll be friends of the show for a long time, I assume. But I brought you on today specifically to talk about our camping trips to Dolly Sods, which were different for you. And I'm really, really excited. We took separate trips, my wife and I first, and then a trip with Claire. And I grew up, well, let's start here. This is going to sound funny the way I'm phrasing it for you, Claire, but that's okay. What was your initial, what was your experience with camping in terms of the definition of camping, your exposure to camping growing up? We'll start with Ashley. What was your?
We did a lot of campground camping, not a ton, but we also camped in people's backyards. I remember being in Cincinnati at my Aunt Susie's, and their friends would, designate their backyard. The dads would all pitch a tent. My dad came down one year, and the best memory I have is I didn't want to sleep in the tent, so my dad let me sleep outside the tent. But we were just in somebody's backyard.
So your experience with camping was a tent in a residential neighborhood.
Pretty much. And we did a little bit of other camping, but mostly tent in a residential neighborhood.
Would you say extreme camping was something along the lines of going to a campground? That was the far edges of camping for you.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
But it was very rare. We were kind of like cabin people, hotel, luxuries.
And there's no complaint there. There's a lot of different tiers of camping. We'll talk about that a little bit more. But so Ashley would be in the category of if there's nature, it was camping. Kind of is how
we want to be in nature, but we like to have a toilet nearby and a shower.
You ain't wrong there.
All the nice things
Claire,
you need.
I'm going to check the camera real quick while you're talking about it, but I'd love to hear what your experience growing up was and exposure to camping, because we didn't do a ton of it. So prior to Dolly Sods, what was kind of your exposure?
Basically just places like Hocking Hills, like cabin, sleep in a cabin, and then go hike in a path, then come back and sleep, and then do the same thing again.
So we kind of rolled with Mom's experience of camping growing up, basically, right? Like when we first started, we were basically doing the far edge. We pushed it forward just a little bit. We weren't doing backyards, but although that's really fun. And I would recommend that using gear when you have a chance, if you have a chance to put your gear together in the yard and stay out there. Because, man, we'll talk a bit about this. And again, you guys are going to hear for the 5th, 10th, and 50th episode, there's really no answer to this. You're going to hear our dogs barking from time to time. I hope you like dogs and it's not too stressful. We're not creating barking dogs on your end. But, yeah, we kind of pushed the envelope there, and then we pushed it again pretty far. I think we cranked it way up on our trip together. My experience growing up, we camped a ton. I mean, it was something that you could do with relatively low cost, especially if you went together. We had a friend of the family. A lot of people have that where you have family friends who also have kids around your age. The Thorpes had several family members that were similar in age. And so we would go to campgrounds, and we did similar to what you were talking about, but we never did the yard thing. We did the actual campgrounds, but they were, kind of campgrounds with other campers very nearby and things like that. And there would be a pool, a tennis court. It's kind of like an outside hotel. Like if you picture a Motel 8, instead of sleeping at a Motel 8 that has a court, you would go in the woods, and it was kind of the woods, but it was right off the main highway, that sort of thing, state parks. So that was my experience. When I said, who did I ask first? Ashley.
Me.
For the
yes.
radio audience, you can't see that she raised her hand, but I asked Ashley first. What was that conversation like? I don't remember it exactly, but what was the starting of like, hey, I think this is something we're going to start doing as a family?
I remember you talking to a friend, Andrew, and I feel like he kind of got you maybe more excited about
He got
it.
me permission. I'd been wanting to do it for a really long time, and he was like, yeah, let's just do it and put it on the calendar. And then we started planning, and I got on YouTube, and I started remembering things from when I was younger and doing gear stuff, and it was like, oh, this is going to be awesome. But then when did I talk to you about it?
Well, we were trying to plan something for our 14th anniversary. And so I think our ideas sometimes of what we would like to do can be very different.
She wants to go to Vegas, buffets,
No.
gambling, all sorts of vices. I would like to be wholesome and go in the woods. Is that a fair assessment?
No.
All right. Oh, okay. Tell us
But
what's
you
true then.
did. You said, I think we should go to Dolly Sods. I know this is going to be out of your comfort zone, but I think it would be really cool. And I was like, in my mind, I'm like, no way. But I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I had a really cool, curious discussion. I think it ended up being more helpful than I anticipated. I wasn't being wise in asking this. It just happened to be helpful, which was this kind of would you rather type conversation. If you've grown up playing that game, it usually gets a little weird, but you can control it as an adult. And so I was kind of pitting certain cool things against each other: city and country, big house, luxury apartment with next to everything. Would you rather have a lifetime of passes to this or one once in a lifetime experience at Disney? Those sort of things. And it was really interesting how all of us had a different answer when it came to camping. Like, do you remember that? Do you remember some of them, Claire? Do you remember some of the outcomes that we realized?
That I would like more like distance and like seeing
the journey
things,
itself and seeing things.
but Harlan likes to build and make a place like his own.
Yep.
And Cecilia would like to just cook
Cook and
and
prepare
make
and
stuff.
host people.
Yeah. And then Henry wanted to basically do the same thing as Harlan, but hike a little ways and then just build his like camp.
Yeah, so this is something, maybe some advice that we accidentally stumbled upon, which is there's certain words that have a lot of meaning, like camping. You say camping, and it brings a lot of different things to a lot of different people's minds. And I realized with the six of us that all six of us had a completely different view of what we actually enjoyed about the camping trip. And Harlan and Henry are similar. Henry really enjoyed the making of the benches and the tools and the actual like building of the things that the camp needed. And when we went on a family trip to, where did we go?
Peniel Bible Camp.
Bible camp. Checking our plosives here.
In Chesterville.
In
Ohio.
Chesterville, yeah. So this was similar, more of like a campground type thing, but it was empty because it's basically like a church camp, school camp, and there's a lot of people there in cabins and stuff. But we were able to go out during an off day, so it was just us generally. And Henry built a bench and he built a thing to hang the pot over to cook water and stuff. And it was really cool. Harlan spent his whole time sawing and chopping wood and making things. So Harlan really likes the bushcraft, like how do I build it? How do I make it? How do I struggle for fun kind of thing. Claire, it's likely, this is a little out of my comfort zone, but I'm looking forward to it. You'd be more likely to do like the Appalachian Trail or something like that. What would you imagine that experience would be like?
Well, I guess we kind of figured out on our trip that I was like the pace setter. My dad, he just like goes and stops and goes and then stops.
Yep.
But I guess, I don't know. I think it would be fun because I like seeing places and then like remembering them, but going on to see a new place, not staying there forever and just like
so
looking
cool.
at it.
Yeah. So like for you, you would rather hike somewhere than fly somewhere. Like instead of flying to a mountain and climbing it, you'd rather hike past a beautiful lake than past a beautiful field than past, you like seeing the world that way. I also was like, there's a logistics part of it, which is everybody needs to carry their load. So if with 6 people, there's a lot of risk and liability in planning. It's easy to run out of water. It's easy to run out of food. It's easy to have a medical emergency. So there was a small sense of like, hey, I need you guys all to kind of have an area of responsibility. Mom clearly set everything up, and that was kind of her thing. She really enjoys planning and executing and knowing what's going on and facilitating. She's very gifted at that. She's a essential, vital part of the kids' school and, of course, our home. And it was a really cool experience to like, when we went out, it was like, Harlan's like, okay, I got this. Cecilia said, I got this. I'm going to make the food and everything. Claire, you're a little more like me in that you don't want to like have a thing. You volunteered. What did you volunteer to step in as and do research and bring gear for?
First aid.
Yeah, you had a general thought that you may want to be a nurse down the road. So you studied some first aid things, most common injuries. You brought a splint that we bought and some other things. You brought the first aid kit. You got to know the first aid kit. I think you took a bunch of stuff out maybe and said like, we won't need this. So she was like, I'll do it. I'll be the one. And sure enough, babe, do you remember this? Tell us what you saw Claire doing at Peniel. She had like 4 incidents, didn't she?
Well, a couple of the boys cut themselves each at least once. Oh,
Dad cut himself like 3 times.
That's
Down
right.
to the bone
I
on
forgot.
that one. I put a big flap in there.
That was gross.
I was using we'll talk about gear, but I was using my knife and hit a knot and slipped and took a chunk of my finger out. Mom was done. I don't know. She birthed all these children. She's so resilient and strong, but she was out. And Claire was like, Dad, you're so annoying. She doesn't talk like this. You're so annoying, Dad. Here, come here. Give it to me. And I'm like, look at this. Isn't this cool? And I took a picture of it. People on Instagram are freaking out. I felt tough, and Claire was just so unimpressed. She's like, all right, let's wrap this up. Let's clean it first. It was awesome. But that's like not you don't want to have like a thing every time.
Yeah, it's kind of fun to be able to do everything, because when you're somewhere and people don't know how to do it or they kind of do, then you can show them and that can become their thing.
Yeah.
But you can help them. Like,
You know what that sounds like that makes my heart sing about make me cry? You sound like you got a bit of a Renaissance mindset where you'd like to be capable of many, many different things and be able to jump in, but you don't want to not learn things at the expense that you do know something. So that's pretty cool, and that's a really neat feature of your character. Mom, Ashley, you talked about things that we enjoy about the trip. I like pushing the envelope and saying like, well, let's try it anyway. Could if. What was kind of the thing that, before we get into the actual trip, what's the thing in general that you enjoy about planning a trip that's a little bit more on this generation of Kester than maybe how you grew up and how we grew up?
I like lists.
Yeah.
So I like to, like for any kind of trip or any kind of thing, like I want to, the list of the driving and where to go and the map or whatever. But then, what do we need and how to pack the bag? Like you're good at packing the bag, but I like to find all the things like the food. I love different
Isn't
types
that
of
fun?
food.
Creating a menu.
Yeah, and deciding, we're going to eat this breakfast and this thing, and when we get down off the mountain, we're going to treat ourselves with this. And that was kind of fun to plan ahead with the food.
I think we work really well together. This is something I need to celebrate, the things we do well together more. But we're really good at, you'll come up with a list that's very, very basic, like initially, maybe not very creative initially, right? But it's perfect. We're not missing anything. Everybody's fed. Now, when it comes to cooking in our house and things like that, you're very creative. But on a trip like that, you'd be more likely to like get Cliff Bars, get whatever. And I'll say, well, why can't we just do this? And da-da-da-da-da. And it's crazy. But then you jump in and go, well, to do it, we need to do this. So I'm very likely to perfectly pack a bag with stuff missing. And you're very likely to not allow the bag to be missing anything. Does that sound like a fair assessment?
Yeah, that sounds like a fair assessment.
So this trip was beautiful, and it's the beginning, kind of the catalyst. We've now got this experience that we can draw on, and we want to go other places. We want to do the Appalachian Trail together, Claire and I. Mom, you and I want to do some other trips similar to Dolly. So it's one of the sweetest times we've ever had together in our life. Would you say?
It was very nice.
It was beautiful.
A challenging thing that we did together.
And we grew together. I think we were both at our best, I would say.
Yeah.
We're going to cry because like relationships are hard. We've been married almost 15 years. We didn't start
over
off
15 years.
I don't know. It just feels really long, but good. It's really good. But we've had incredible challenges. And so this was one of those experiences where it was like, man, just nothing went wrong. And that doesn't always go. Some parts of relationships are really hard. And this one was not hard. We just were great the entire time. And we'll continue to look for those opportunities and grow in our normal days. But so we planned this trip. And let's talk about planning the trip. So I kind of led on what we would need to take and what we need to do, but you guys all had some insights. What were some of your favorite things about the gear of the trip? Like let's talk about gear for a minute.
I really liked getting fitted for my pack. Did you like that, Claire?
Yeah, that was kind of fun, but it was also kind of weird for me because it was like a guy was helping, and
like
I
a
didn't.
20-year-old dude, and
And
you're
he
like
didn't.
13.
He didn't know how to deal with me,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
it was funny.
Well, I'm going to go out on a limb and say maybe he didn't know how to deal with me. Because I'm standing right there, and
That's
he's got to
fair.
like get the holster for her hips fitted and things like that. And he's like, "Oh, so what you'll?" And he like look over at me, and he was really sweet. He was a good guy, wasn't he? But he was clearly uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Okay, so normally," and he'd look at me. He's like, "What I would do is," and he's like getting consent from everybody in the room, and it was pretty cool. And you got big bearded dad, and then you've got beautiful daughter, who it's hard to tell your age. You're 13 now, right?
Yeah.
But you could easily look older or younger to people. And so it was cool. It's okay. We don't have any sponsors with them or anything, but let's talk about the place. Like, where did we go?
REI.
REI.
Pretty
And
awesome.
it was really great.
And some of our side stuff we ended up at Sierra Trading Post for.
Right. Some of the random odds and ends that maybe you need, maybe you don't, or whatever, to save a little money. But REI was probably 95%. Our
Of the-
dividend
The heavy
of
gear.
the main gear, not
Yeah.
food necessarily.
Right.
But our dividend from them that year was pretty substantial. It was pretty great. But yeah, so we went to REI. They were unbelievably accommodating. One thing I really enjoyed about them was I didn't feel any sense of, it was clear that in a lot of ways we were new in certain ways. And so like I didn't get that pretentious.
Oh, they didn't make you feel dumb. They were just very
so excited that you were
kind,
getting into it.
right? And so a lot of them have hiked or camped or what, all of them have
A lot of bouldering.
experience and all that kind of stuff. So they had tips for us or places to recommend. It was it's every time we go in there, we learn something new.
Yeah, for sure. So we got fitted for our packs. We all three, it was so weird. We went with the Osprey packs. And tell me what you liked about those. We tried like several other brands. We won't use the brands we didn't use right now, but there's several other main brands that we tried on, and some of them are a little bit more accommodating for the, figure of women and men and how we carry our weight. Of course, everything is different for every person, but there's some that accommodate a little bit more for different body types and things like that. And we thought, well, maybe, Claire will go this way and Ashley will go this way and I'll go this way. But we all ended up with Osprey. I'll grab that while you kind of talk about what you felt about that. Claire, let's start with Claire.
I feel like it was hard to find something for me because I was too big for like all the kid ones, and I felt kind of too small for all the adult ones. And also I felt like I was really bony. I don't normally feel that way because I have a friend who's pretty petite, and
Yeah.
so I'm considerably bigger than her.
Yeah.
And so I felt very bony when I was trying
That's
on these
true.
packs, like my back and my hips. I was like,
Because explain the process if nobody's been hiking before. I'm going to be honest with you. You're going to hear this theme from me. I have a little bit of a spending problem. Now, we do the Dave Ramsey thing. We're trying to stay affordable. But once I decide, cash, no debt, those sort of things. But once I decide that we're doing something, as you can see by Renaissance Radio, that currently has, single-digit listeners probably, and I'm sitting here with all this gear. I kind of just go all in. I don't spend money just for the sake of money. Of course, you can do it cheaply. But my feeling is I've started enough things and saved money at the beginning and quit them because I didn't have something comfortable. And I was just, to me, spending all that money on them to get the nicer bag was infinitely worth it because I didn't want them to be in pain on the hike and not want to go again. And I feel like something like a pack, if you're going any sort of distance, you want to get something that's good for you. And these ones happen to have that anti-gravity. There's this mesh so that the pack's not directly on your back. There's some space. The sweat's a little bit better. They have the hip thing. And Ashley, what about you when you tried yours on? What was the determining factor? Maybe there's some moms or people that are thinking about getting into it that might benefit from the experience you had of choosing the right pack.
Well, kind of dumb, but I like certain colors.
That's who you talking to.
So
Yeah,
I
don't
kind
bother
of
me.
gravitate towards colors, but then I tried on several, but you're right. The anti-gravity, how it sits on my hips is important.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to have anything rubbing or be too tight. And so I didn't try on as many packs as Claire, but
Well, you found the right pack a little sooner than she
Right.
did. It wasn't that she was indecisive.
that's true.
We literally couldn't get comfortable in any of these.
Yeah, she had a hard time finding the right fit. And maybe for an adult, she's still going to grow. That was the other thing with Claire. We know that she's probably still growing.
And it could be any year that
And so
she
we-
needs a little more space or she gets taller
So
or
we
whatever.
were trying to pick a pack for her.
I think your first one was the right one for today, but it was at the top end of its ability to expand. Because these Osprey packs, you're able to adjust the height and stuff. Does that sound right?
yeah,
Yeah. So the one that we picked, what was something you really liked about it?
the one that we have right now.
Yeah.
It like the anti-gravity thing, and
That was big for you too.
like the thing around the hips, it's not it's not uncomfortable. It basically depends on the clothes you're wearing if it rubs.
Yeah, that's a
That's
really good
true.
point. We're going to talk about, I think in this episode, we're going to talk about gear and choices and the process of starting. And if you guys are okay to come back someday, we'll talk about the actual experience of the trip a little bit more. So that'll be great. So what about the clothes? So you've got this pack, and if you can picture it on the radio, there's a couple really important points in the pack. There's how it lays on your back, which is one thing. The advanced people that hike typically go frameless. They try to cut the weight down as much as they can, and it goes on their back. We're talking as people who've really invested in the early stages of that. Oh, what I was saying about quitting is, go ahead.
We have a tendency at this point in our journey of backpacking to have a little bit too much stuff.
Yeah, because we want to over prepare a little bit. As you get more comfortable, you're comfortable leaving things out. But in the beginning, it's like, oh, I just really can't do without this just in case. But yeah, we were probably 20% overpacked, I would say. And that really affected endurance. But when I was talking about quitting things, one of the things I started a long time ago was cycling, and I didn't have the right gear, the right seat, and all that stuff. And I was just in like actual severe pain afterwards. Same thing with running. I didn't get really the right stuff, and it just hurt really, really bad because I have some knee issues and things like that. And so I was really, really wanting to make sure that, number one, the only thing we were uncomfortable about was the fact that we physically weren't in the shape that we could be. I wanted to be a little bit tired, a little worn out, but I didn't want cuts and scrapes and chafing and hard back pain and things like that to come into play on these first trips. That'll happen when we do our through hike. I have no idea how we're going to pull that off. It's going to be amazing, but it's going to hurt, and we're going to get cuts, and we're going to get those sort of things, and that's okay. That's part of that. But for a pretty moderate hike, you don't want to see those things. So that's what we did. Now, Claire, you mentioned what you wear is important, and I want to hear from you too, Ashley. What are some considerations that you had to make when you were choosing what to wear for your trip? In hindsight, maybe planning this next trip, what are some things you could give advice to young ladies or really anyone about planning?
What I found out was that like layers did not do well. So I wore leggings and then athletic shorts over it.
Yep.
And so
And probably a shot at modesty, just trying to,
yeah. And so my shorts rubbed over everything, and so then they rubbed, and then made my leggings rub, and then it was like
I see,
rubbing everywhere, and it didn't go.
So the combination of fabric on fabric, the more layers created more instances of creating raw or soreness. So what would you recommend to young ladies to do, maybe that are considerate of modesty and their definition of modesty and comfort and that sort of thing? What would the next pack look like?
Either I would probably wear like leggings and a long shirt.
Okay.
Or shorts that are like a
Mesh or
little above the
something.
knee.
Yeah.
That like stretch and stuff.
Understanding your trip too makes a difference. We weren't doing a lot of bushcraft through the woods or anything like that, so we were a little bit less worried about thorns and scrapes and things, although we ran into those too. That's really good. What about, is there any other piece of outfit or gear or something you were like, man, I really appreciated having that on the clothing front?
Not really.
What about you, Ashley?
I was on the same boat. Like leggings were really important. Comfort, but
Yeah.
also we were in October, so we didn't know it was potential to be a little bit chilly.
Right.
So I like the oversized shirts, but you have to be careful of material and certain things and how you sweat. I mean, no matter what you do, you stink.
Yeah, don't worry about, I mean, and hikers aren't, I'm not talking about modesty in the sense of like, you know, we're in the woods, like nobody cares, but some, you know, you just have your own personal comfort on what you're willing to wear. And some people have more restrictions and less that they put on themselves. So there's that, but yeah, I mean, you're going to be nasty. I mean, that's just the thick of it, you know.
Yeah,
it's
I
very
think our
unlikely that you're
favorite thing
it's not a hike if you're not nasty. If you're not nasty, you just went for a walk.
Well, I think the best thing we brought with us is those, like the unscented, like baby wipes or wipes. Cause it was like almost taking a shower or best you could.
That's the truth. That's the truth. So let's rattle off some of those gear pieces that we talked about. So number one, let's go fast. So I'll put the link on the blog sites on the stories page of the packs that we chose. We really liked. One of the overpacks is that I took a tent, an REI tent. Claire, we talked about this. That thing's heavy. I mean, it's not heavy, but it's heavy, you know, after 10 or 12 miles. An extra 4 or 5 pounds is pretty heavy. Let's talk about where we slept. Like, what are our thoughts on that, on tent versus other things? Claire?
I think the only reason we had the tent was basically for privacy, or if it rained, which we were pretty sure it wasn't going to rain.
Right.
And so I think we slept in hammocks the whole time, and it only sprinkled a little.
Which was no big deal. We were already wet, and it wasn't too bad.
And so I think that we already talked about getting like tarps for over the hammocks so we can have them for privacy and rain coverage, and just like in general.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about privacy, obviously changing on the trail, or just hygiene in general. You know, ladies, you have extra considerations to make on the trail. We won't talk in detail about that today, but you know, maybe we can point to some good resources. But like, all of us have these moments where we just got to be out of sight. You know what I mean? I mean, even using the restroom at camp is a challenge, right? Figuring out how to do that, because you want to leave no trace for what's going on behind. So what's going on behind? I was trying to be vague, and then I said what's going on behind. Anyway, sometimes you got to poo, and sometimes you got to take a tinkle, and you're out in the woods, and you're not alone, right? Like there are going to be some people there in most cases. So that privacy there, the tent doesn't solve half of those problems. And we just figured like maybe it would be better to just take some general tents and bungees or ropes and just create makeshift areas as well as cover, and just get good at the origami of using a tent. Just get good at creating shelters and things like that. Because honestly, and babe, why don't you jump in here? But like, I don't love sleeping in the tent. I'm never comfortable. My back hurts. It's stuffy. I don't know. I can't really see what's going on outside. I don't love the tent. What do you feel about the tent?
I feel like it has to be 100% flat, because I think even where we ended up camping, it wasn't, well, no, not at Dolly Sods, but when we were at Peniel, we were on a slight incline that we didn't notice until we slept, and like both of us could hardly move in the morning, and we're not that old.
No.
We shouldn't be that stiff, so hammocks are the way to go.
I mean, everybody's too old to lay on tree roots. I mean, it's just like, I see these people on the trail, and they're incredible, but they're basically, their business is like, it's like marathon runners. Like, they're just proving they can suffer more than you can suffer, because it's not comfortable. It hurts. Like those sort of running 20 plus miles hurts. Laying on the ground hurts. The bigger you are, the less accustomed to it. But there are people who can do it. I don't know a lot of them. It's tough.
It's not my favorite.
So you end up having to carry a pad or a cot or something to accommodate for that comfort if you need it.
And you bring, a little inflatable pillow, and you're taking the tent.
It adds up.
It does add up. It's interesting because I'm very huge advocate of a tent, but then at Dolly Sods, I was like, oh, we could. But it made me nervous to think about, we didn't sleep outside our tent, but we should have. We could have. But,
yeah, Claire and I did.
Right. But on our trip, we didn't.
Yeah. Now, the other thing is, like, we're married, and, like, we wanted to cuddle and smooch and stuff. So being in a tent is really nice and that sort of thing. But Claire, what were your thoughts on some of the tarp origami? We had some ideas that probably have already been done. The idea of, like, what are some different uses you'd hoped we could use a tarp for?
Just like a basic, basically just like a tent over a hammock.
Just stake it on a line over top of the tent, over the hammock, so that you could get underneath that and change. People could see your feet, shins and stuff, but in general, you could get under that and change if you needed to. We also talked about having like a common restroom area or something that we would cover up. Usually you have, it's weird. One of the things at Dolly Sods when you're going up a mountain or any mountain is you can't just obscure vision left or right. You sometimes have to obscure vision from above too, which is kind of weird. Like, remember we woke up on the night that we stayed right up on the mountain, and there's like dudes like above us, like talking with their flashlights, barely above on the crest of the hill there.
Was that you? Because we were trying to sleep, and there was guys with flashlights.
No, you and I stayed at the Pine Grove.
I just remember them walking through and being really loud.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
But when we stayed down in that little crevice, we had people coming up on top of Lion's Head to look at the stars, and
they're yelling and singing and being obnoxious, and they didn't mean anything by it, because we're at basically we're at Lion's Head, so we're at the tourist area of the site.
Right.
We're basically like at the spot, and we found Andrew and I found this little crevice down in there that's like the secret little spot. It's about 15 degrees warmer and more humid than the rest of the mountaintop. So that's really nice, I bet, in the winter. But in the summer or even in the fall, it was a little bit daunting.
It was a little bit hot.
And the air wasn't circulating, so you had more flies and things like that. But overall, very, very beautiful. Claire, we had a nasty storm roll up on us while we were up there.
Yeah, we were watching it come in on Lion's Head and trying to take pictures of the lightning.
Yeah.
It was really pretty until it came.
It was really pretty, and it was like, oh,
But like
do we die?
It started out and it wasn't even raining. It was just lightning, like huge flashes, so I couldn't
so
fall
cool.
asleep.
Yeah.
And so I was just like really brain dead, just like waiting for the lightning to stop.
So let's talk a little bit about, I want to tell more stories about that on the next episode, but let's talk a little bit about gear. We talked about lodging. We're big fans of the tents. There's really nice ones. There's some incredible, we're big fans of the hammocks. Now, you can't hammock everywhere. You got to plan your trip. There's some places you're just not going to have the ability to hammock. Regardless, though, I think I'm going to probably start moving towards something much, much smaller for myself for the trips I go out on my own or with a friend. I'm probably going to get a one of those, I forget what they're called, but they basically just cover the sleeping bag in a pad or hammocks or whatever. I think
hammocks are awesome too because the nylon ones are pretty inexpensive.
Very inexpensive.
You can spend anywhere from $15 to whatever, like $100,
$500, whatever.
But they hold up. We've got some pretty inexpensive ones that have done really well.
The way that I tend to operate is a lot of the stuff I do solo on my own. So I wanted to make sure to get a podcast microphone for myself and one for a guest. And then I'm beginning to add that as we go. I want to get enough for me to go out on my own occasionally for a night or two. And then for the kids and stuff, so I'm getting a little bit nicer stuff. But the kids and one guest, we just snagged those off Amazon, some of them. And they're not like, do they last forever? No. But are we going to get more than 5 trips a year out of them? Yeah. I mean, it'll be great. I think that'll be good. Let's talk a little bit about food. That's a really fun topic. We found this one online, which I loved. Do you want to talk about it?
Did you and Claire find the one?
Did we not do a ramen bomb together?
We didn't know about ramen bombs.
We'll talk about the ramen bomb first. The first trip was with Andrew, and then I took Ashley, and then I took Claire. Claire, talk a little bit about food. I've got some stuff in front of us. If you go on the YouTube channel, if we haven't posted yet, there's some things. We've got, dehydrated taters. Is that what you call them?
Yeah, instant mashed potatoes.
Yeah. Claire, so what was our food experience while we were there?
One of the nights we made ramen bomb, which is basically just instant mashed potatoes, Spam.
Wait, let me give them some context. I'm worried they're going to freak out. Here's the deal. When you're hiking, you're burning crazy calories. So your caloric intake to stay healthy, you need a lot of water and a lot of electrolytes, and you also need a lot of calories. So those of you on your diets at home listening to this, maybe in the drive-through of a fast food place or whatever, just keep in mind, this is not a daily thing. This is just while you're out on the road. You're just wiped, and you need some energy. So it was, what'd you say it was?
It was instant mashed potatoes, Spam, and it's supposed to have, like, the ramen noodles, like the package of ramen noodles, but I don't think we did that. I'm pretty sure we just did.
We put it in, did we not?
I'm pretty sure we just did the mashed potatoes and Spam.
But we did a ramen bomb.
So it was like a paste of mashed potatoes and chunks of Spam.
Yeah, so we boiled some water. Now, one of the things about Dolly Sods to keep in mind is, in some of the hikes, is you just need to keep access to your water. We overpacked water. I like comfort with my difficulty. So once we got up the mountain, we had water to wash, to drink, to cook with, and that was it. And then you have to make your way back down. I think next time we might stay at the riverbed and then day hike up the mountain and then come back. We like the unlimited water supply, which we have a really nice, I'll have to put it on the blog post, a really nice, well-recommended from us filter.
Right, I can't remember the name of it right now.
That's all right, but we got it REI, and it's been great. It's been great. Okay, so we get this nasty paste, and you're like, dude, that is disgusting. And reasonably so, right? Like, supposed to be disgusting.
Yeah, but
then we met some people.
We had just hiked up the mountain, and it was actually kind of good.
It was unbelievable. It was some of the best food I'd ever had in that moment. Now, obviously, that's ridiculous. I've had a lot of really great food, but in that moment, I was like, this is really so satisfying. Good. And we met 2 ladies who were hiking together.
We passed these ladies hiking, and then they were camping near us, and so they passed by.
We just started talking to them.
And so we talked to them, and we were eating our ramen bomb, and it's very filling, so we had like half the bag left. And so we just gave it to them, and we didn't even have silverware. We just gave it to them, and
we had silverware, but they didn't.
They didn't.
Yeah,
so
so by the way, we cooked it in a thick freezer bag, Ziploc bag.
It has to be like a high temperature.
Yes, so you can't do it in any bag. We basically boiled water, poured it into the high temperature Ziploc bag, and shook it up, and then let it kind of steep, fill up, absorb, whatever. And so I remember offering it to them. I was like, hey, this is going to seem like the most bizarre and not thoughtful gift ever. But they had said they ran out of food. They were low on food. We were low on water.
Yeah.
And they said, hey, we're okay on water. We're low on food. It was really a sweet experience because they were like, if you need water, we don't have an unlimited supply, but we're a little better off. And so we were low on water. Both Claire and I had different things going on in our life medically that we really needed plenty of hydration and electrolytes. You were having some trouble with your sodium levels and electrolytes for a little while there. You were getting a little, do you remember that?
No.
Yeah, you had kind of a scare. You had like a little, you got kind of, I remember. I can't believe you guys don't remember that. But anyway, it was like she's gotta have more salt and she's gotta have more electrolytes in her diet.
Well, that's just in general. The doctor said I have to have more.
Sorry.
Salt
I didn't know
and
in
stuff.
general didn't count. So anyway, and for my case, I had the same thing. I get these rhabdo fits and things. So I just need to keep an eye on it. And I got this young lady with me. It's not like she's going to be able to carry me down. So I just had to be extra cautious. We're out of water. Generally, we're rationing water and they're out of food. And they're like, we're going to have to head back, but we're hoping to stay for a little while. So I'm like, hey, try this. It's half-eaten, disgusting ingredients. They go, we don't care. That sounds amazing. We hand it to them. They're like, this is so good. They were like so
They're
grateful.
like just grabbing chunks out of the bag with their hands.
Yeah. And by then it had kind of dried a bit. So it had turned into almost like a no-bake cookie sort of thing. And they're eating it. But when you're short on calories and you're hungry,
It's awesome.
You're so pumped. And this is pre-COVID or early COVID at least. It was very early and we weren't sure what was going on. And being out in the woods was basically a quarantine. But that one experience probably wasn't the most quarantined. We ended up okay. Mama, what about food for you? What are your thoughts on food?
I think the food, like when you look at, we bought those prepackaged like freezer or dried meals.
Mountain House and some other ones here. Again, no sponsorships here. We're just trying to give you an idea. I'll put it on the. So they were like pre-made chef kind of. Yeah,
but like I think, like you said, the hike was super difficult as far as like it was taxing and you're sweating and you're tired. So like every meal was like tasted. It seemed like the most.
It was crazy, wasn't it?
We had like spaghetti for dinner or
spaghetti and meatballs.
Yeah, it was amazing. And biscuits and gravy was the best.
Biscuits and gravy is my favorite.
Me too. So we have pretty. Certainly not sophisticated taste. I guess it would be, but I don't mean at the expense of other people. But I've had a lot of food from all over. We do not allow our family to have a picky household. You have to suffer in silence if you don't like something. A picky kid is a hungry kid. We are supposed to try everything and find the part we enjoy about it and shut up about the rest. That's our job here at the house. So we, intellectuals, that's a joke, are like, well, let's get the curry. Let's get these 17 ingredient, really whatever. And under normal circumstances, if I'd gotten that at a restaurant, it would have been awesome.
But it wasn't our favorite.
No.
We had it for dinner the one night, and I was like, this is okay.
But I think it was good.
It was good, but the ones that were more basic, like biscuits and gravy.
Did you agree with that?
Spaghetti and meatballs.
Yeah, we really didn't have anything.
I think because we knew that, we went with basic with you.
We basically just did stuff like biscuits and gravy and then the ramen bomb. That's basically it. And
we also did, here, grab those. We did some Cliff Bars on the road, and we did, you're going to be hearing them crackling in the mic if you're on the radio, Cliff Protein Bars and Lara Bars. These things are melted and mangled, but they'll firm back up, and they don't have to be refrigerated. Those were really helpful to us. Not the cheapest thing you can do, but in general, just keeping you going morale-wise to be able to just pop something that's tasty there. Salty things were really good if you had enough water.
Oh, beef jerky.
Beef jerky.
And Snickers.
Oh,
and Snickers.
That's right. You guys
we did
took
party-sized Snickers, and those were, again, another thing that you would go, don't eat Snickers on a hike. That's not good for you.
I literally ate like 15 Snickers in like 2 days.
But here's the thing. You need that burst of sugar, that burst of calories, that burst of energy. Those are basically energy bars when you're instantly burning off what you just did, right? Like, so if you're instantly burning off what you just did, the difference is when I eat Snickers normally, I'm sitting at the computer editing for 8 hours. So
it's not good.
But yeah, there's things that are actually really delicious on a hike that are actually weirdly somewhat healthy for you. They're not as unhealthy, at least, while you're hiking because you're burning off that burst of sugar that you're eating. And you don't know when you take your first longer trip, like you don't know if you're going to be susceptible to low energy, low blood sugar things. So you just want to make sure you plan ahead and prepare for that. What about some other things? So food, that was really fun. We got those little squirty electrolyte things to add to the water. That was kind of nice.
Oh, it's like for flavor.
Yeah, it's basically Kool-Aid, but it's full of electrolytes, Gatorade or whatever. It's full of electrolytes and other things. That was really helpful.
And then you did instant coffee.
I really enjoyed, I think, Claire, did you grab that? No, I really enjoyed the instant coffee from some different folks, and that helped me. I get these headaches a bit, and it was really helpful to me to get some caffeine in the morning. We also did Swiss Miss hot chocolate. I don't know if we ever ended up making any, though.
Oh yeah, we did. On our first night at the river, we made hot chocolate.
Oh, yeah. And
Or the morning.
It was good. I think the first hike in was probably only 3 miles to the
Yeah.
first
To
base
the
camp.
river.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to the river. And in most cases we go further. Claire and I decided to stop there, set up camp, tear down camp, go to the mountain, stay one night on the mountain, and then head back home and do that. We did the whole hike back from the top to the car, right?
Yeah, that's what we did too.
Yeah. Just, it wasn't perfect. I also downloaded an app called All Trails.
That was so helpful.
That was clutch. Andrew and I, when we went out, the things that they said on this hike was like the trail is not super easy to see. It's hard to find. That actually misled us because we thought the trail was crazy hard to see. So we actually started following like deer tracks and stuff, and we got lost for 2 or 3 hours just kind of trying to refine the trail. And that's not a good advice. That trail was not hard to follow. There were moments where we checked our map on All Trails because there's a GPS offline mode, which was big. It's not cheap. It was
like $50 for the year. And
the other thing that I'd like to have that's a little bit expensive. What are your thoughts on that? Go ahead. You know what I'm going to say. Your eyes.
The beacon.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have a beacon.
That if I'm not going and you're going with kids or with friends, like it'd be nice because there's no way once in most of these areas at Dolly, Sods and other places, once you get to a certain point, there's no cell service or anything. So there's no way to know if you got hurt or if you're okay. And so,
I mean, that's the thing. Like, there are a lot of people out there. It would be really strange to be yelling and not get help. However, you're kind of counting on somebody to be able to get the word out. And it might be several hours before they can. There was someone went out there and did die from
when
a
you
slip. No, it was another trip. But we're cool with proximity to danger. We're not cool with taking big risks just because we want to say we did. I mean, we stayed fairly safe, but it wasn't a safe hike, that's for sure. All right, so about some gear too. I've been a huge fan of, I'd love to get a custom one, something really, really nice, but this little Concord knife, Claire's looking like, oh great, I'm gonna have to patch that up. This thing's all beat up, needs ground back down. This has been a lifesaver. Super nice Concord. And then this Baco saw, as far as saws go, has been really nice. It's basically just like a very small, maybe a 9-inch blade that allows you to cut wood down to that small and medium size. Harlan tried to cut a whole tree down with it and stuck with it. There's also this SOG shovel. I can't imagine a scenario where the weight is worthwhile for us on most hikes. If we're spreading it out amongst 6 people, 4 people, then somebody should carry this. It's a hatchet, saw, shovel. I'm going to be honest with you.
Gotta dig a hole.
Going potty. Yeah, you're going to want something. Yeah, and that's a whole thing. We'll talk about that some other time. That was really nice. The water bladders were cool. Definitely. Was there one more piece of gear that you were like, all right, we have to bring this up? The lamps.
Oh, we found those up.
We grabbed these little
They're
Walmart.
from Walmart.
Tell us about it.
They were just these little tiny camping lamps that we grabbed last second. They take like 2 AA batteries or AAA, and you can hang them on stuff. I mean, we've already broken one, but they're cheap. They're like
$3, I think.
Yeah,
3
to
or 4.
$5, and we bought like 4 or 5 of them, and it was nice in the tent when you're trying to get ready for the night when everything's dark. And
you don't feel bad leaving them on overnight on the lowest mode to like
that's true.
Like on the red to lead a path to the designated restroom area, that sort of thing. Essentially, the rule is, guys, don't leave a trace. So you're not going to be wanting to bring anything that you leave behind. So you can do wipes and things like that. Those are helpful. The best advice we've heard was to use a very heavy duty bag, Ziploc bag or something, and then line it with foil. And that will be basically your trash bag for on the go for any sort of waste that you need.
You carry everything out.
But you carry everything out. Yeah. So you're going to want to dig a hole, make a mess, fill that hole back in, and use anything that you use. Make sure you carry it back out. But yeah, these lights were clutch. Having a flashlight or a headlamp is kind of nice as well. We also, Claire, what about this rope? This is the boys were freaking about this. This survival cord, it's Titan survival cord. We just take a smaller section of it, but do you know anything about this?
Doesn't it
have like a fire starter in it, like cotton or something?
Yeah, it's basically a cord. It's a Titan survival cord. It's got, like, I don't even know, 10, 12, 16 different types of cord inside of this one rope. So it's a really strong rope, but it's got, you can cut it and split it open, and there's wire so that you can use, there's fishing line, there's all sorts of different things. One of the things I think is some sort of, you can melt it to repair things, and they've just kind of stacked this Swiss Army knife worth of different rope and cord types into this one rope. I think I bought 100 feet. It wasn't too expensive, but it was not cheap as rope goes. Oh, Blackbeard fire starter.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That was when we were at Penile. You literally started a fire and pouring down rain.
Yeah, I have a video of, this is turning to be a very expensive podcast blog post in terms of time, but Blackbeard fire starters we absolutely loved. We did a little flint and steel. I'm fine with taking matches and a lighter. That's cool too. We took, the matches were really nice. We had like some regular matches, but we also had, do you remember the storm matches? Very, very heavily caked with the fire stuff and also resistant to light rain and heavy wind. And so they burn real fast, real hot matches. And we tried the flint and steel. That's fun. I'm not in a scenario where like I would buy flint and steel instead of bringing those other things. I would like to know how to do it.
Right.
But yeah, the Blackbeard fire starters completely submerged in water. I started a fire. Crazy. I had some dry wood. Did the Blackbeard. It's basically a thick rope that's been soaked in whatever material they do, combustible stuff. I put it underneath some dry wood and immediately put dry on the inside, wet on the outside wood over top of it. And we were covered. I mean, it was going to flood us almost kind of rain. It was heavy rain.
Heavy rain.
And was able to start a fire, and that was really, really cool. So Blackbeard was really cool. Here's another thing, Claire. Shoes. I had, what were the shoes that I used for a long time?
Merrill's.
I had Merrill's and stinking loved them. Why don't you tell us what you used, and then I'll tell the story of mine. You can tell the story of mine.
I think I had Merrill's
Yeah,
too.
yours are brand new.
I had brand new Merrill's, but when on our way back, Dad was already having trouble with his shoes because it was like muddy, a little muddy, and so we were slipping, and his shoes are older, so they don't have as much grip anymore.
Yeah.
And so we passed by a big group of people that were just going, like, hiking up. And
They weren't necessarily socially, like, outgoing. It was a pretty awkward scenario a little bit. They were great folks, but I was joking with them, and they were working through what joking with a stranger feels like. And then immediately...
And then he slipped on mud and got his leg stuck, like, in a weird angle on a rock.
It was real bad. Like, I slipped on... My right foot slipped backwards, my left foot slipped forward, but the right foot was on a rock, and my bottom and my left leg were down below it. So if you can imagine, I already have quite a bit of tears. I have some serious issues with my right knee. My daughter was super sweet. We're all pretty composed in those situations till we figure out what's wrong. And they're looking at me, and I've got my leg up over the height of my hip backwards, twisted around backwards, as if you see like middle school girls, they pull their leg up by their ankle and they kind of twist it forward like this to stretch, which I've never done in my life except for that moment. And I was legitimately like, and I've got a pack on my back, I'm loaded up, and a good while later somebody goes, "Do you need some help?" And I'm like, yeah, if you could. Like, they helped me up. It was tough. And fortunately I was all right, but I was also very fortunate we were at the tail end of our hike because it really did hurt, but I didn't sustain a serious injury. And that's what we're talking about. It's like, how's she going to get me down off that mountain? So I will say this about the Merrills. They were fantastic, but I did use them past their usefulness. I had zero issues on the previous hikes, but had worn them down, I think, to a critical mass plus the rain plus the mud. And that'll certainly be an investment next time. So making sure you're getting good hiking boots and shoes. There's a lot of good brands out there, but we've been happy. What did you use?
I have a thrifted pair of Merrill's. So
Yeah.
mine are about, or
Yours were pretty new though when I got them for you, weren't they?
I don't know.
Okay.
Claire got brand new ones.
Yeah, she's.
We're big thrifters though, so they were in good
Well,
shape.
they were on clearance at like Sierra Trading Post,
Right.
I think, and
Yeah.
so
They were a good deal.
Yeah, the qualifications are: is it the right gear, and then second, is it affordable? We're going to do both, you
Right.
know? Although Claire, we just thrifted. Holy cow! Talk about your coat.
Oh yeah. My dad found a Columbia coat.
Which we're big Columbia family. We love the tech, the Omni Heat, Omni Tech, all that stuff. It's a
And
down jacket.
It's a down jacket, and I'm pretty sure it's Omni Tech
Mm-hmm. And
and
Heat.
Omni Heat, and it goes down past my knees, and it fits almost perfectly and has a hood. And he got it. I don't know how much.
It was $300.
deal.
It was $300.
Good
I went
deal.
back Ashley to grab another one just for when Cecilia grows into it. They're $300 jackets in 2021. This is the 2020 model, or 2019, 2020. And sure enough, they coupon on top of discount on top of clearance. We grab it, and it was $55 is what we grabbed it for. And it was like $300. I went back the next day, and that same coat was on sale again, but it was on sale for $229.
Oh, they'd raised the price.
Yeah, I guess I'd shared with too many people that they goofed up. But yeah, so that's something we'll be doing here soon, is getting our gear together for the rest of the time. I think that's probably good for now. I'm just trying to make sure we don't have any other gear that we absolutely love. We talk about clothing and food and some of the tools and things like that. There's a really good splint that we found. Maybe I can list it, but it's got a whole bunch of different ways it can be used. So it can be used to stabilize broken bone, that sort of thing. So when we talked about our first aid kit, that was one that had actually instructions on the splint and all the different things. It can be done to stabilize an ankle or a shin or whatever. So that was pretty cool. Well, I love you ladies, and I'm so excited about our trips together. That's something, as I work to stabilize life in terms of work and things like that, one of the things I'm looking forward to most is regular trips out in the woods together. Make sure you look up when the Appalachian Trail is best traveled. Maybe we can get a little easier time of year, because it's going to be very difficult. It's going to be tough, but I'm really excited about it. Something we'll have to train for, really. We'll probably have to go to the state parks that are next to us and just do a couple miles together, every week or something like that for a little while. But yeah, I'm excited. You can't overpack those. That's what I hear. That's a trip you cannot overpack, because you just won't have the endurance to get it done. So we won't have the luxury of.
I think there's a couple things I know that we shouldn't bring, and complications with something I was doing. I had to bring more stuff.
Yep.
So
yeah, our timing is going
yeah.
to be important. Yeah. So what's something just off the top of your head? What's something that was like, that maybe you wouldn't bring next time? And then what's your theory on, like, should we have bought it at all, or maybe just not next time?
I feel like we had a ton of food. Like, I didn't eat as much as I thought.
Me neither.
And so I really thought I would eat a lot, but I didn't.
It was just having enough for those meals.
I think that I snacked a lot on the trail.
Yes.
And so the stuff I ate was filling, and I didn't eat big meals. And so we packed a lot of food, and then we didn't have enough room for, like, I don't know. It was just very hard to repack our bags, and
yes.
like, it was stuffed.
Also,
and
too much food brings too much waste, too much packaging and things. You have to carry all that back. I think you're right. I think one of the things we could do next time a little better is do the little portion snacks, things like jerky, nuts, sugary stuff, like Snickers and things like that. Just little packs of grab and goes of those things, and then just enough meals to cover it. We also, both of us, stopped and had a pretty good meal on the way home, I think.
We pigged
we,
out.
We ate like a bunch of pigs.
I
didn't
ate
we?
like 3 cookies and sugar and like chicken, and
I
don't even know, mashed
grabbed caramel
potatoes.
Bugles
Oh,
on the way
those are
home.
so good.
Those are amazing. I'm dumping the stuff in my mouth, and we did not do a good job on the way home, and it was awesome, and I loved it. Mama, in closing, what did we do on the way home?
A Chinese buffet.
I can never get people to go to a China buffet with me. They always think I'm joking.
This place was like in the middle of nowhere in a strip mall next to like a Great Clips or something. And there was like 3 other people in there, but we were like, whatever. It was good.
I'm gonna be honest with you. It's gross, and it's just kind of fun to do that. Andrew and I went to a little family diner.
Oh, that would be
got
awesome.
a little buffet, and they had, like, you can imagine the square cuts of Jell-O.
Yes.
And like it was an unlimited fried chicken buffet.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so that's something we'll have to find. Well, love you, ladies. Talk to you soon because we live together.
Thanks
And-
for having us.
Yeah, that was fun. Did you have fun?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, that's it for today. Don't worry about liking and subscribing. It's only our future. All right, bye.